So let's evaluate the Clippers season so far. So far this season, you've seen very up and down basketball, very inconsistent basketball. You've seen one superstar there, the other one not. You've seen a bunch of role players play well at times, then some not. Then you've seen a bunch of injuries creep in, whether COVID or just other physical injuries that can happen or be obtained during the regular season. And right now you're looking at a team that's hovering around the 500 mark or lower, and they're between the 7th and 9th seed day by default. And those are things that you look at in a team and you say to yourself, can this team win a championship? Can this team get it together? And when you look at the Clippers, of course you say they can because of what all the talent they have. And not only that, just having Kawhi and PG as your two perimeter star players, one number one guy in Kawhi Leonard who can definitely put a team on his back, who's shown that he's able to or has been capable of doing so. And a guy in Kawhi Leonard has been a two-time Finals MVP and shown that he knows what it takes to win a championship if he has the right pieces around him. Now, of course, adding Paul George, when you look at how Paul George plays, he definitely can be a vital piece to Kawhi Leonard. But the only question I've always had about Paul George, will he be a vital piece to Kawhi Leonard and the championship aspirations the Clippers have? Because one part of winning a championship is have players play and be reliable and be accountable. And when you look at the reliability of Paul George, to me in the playoffs, it's always been an issue for him. The last season that we saw him, which was this past season in the playoffs, he played pretty well. But if it wasn't for Kawhi having the great first round that he did, how could playoff P ever redeem himself? He wouldn't have been able to if Kawhi didn't have that Hercules type effort against the Dallas Mavericks, which got them out the first round, in which a lot of people thought they would have lost the first round because Kawhi Leonard was the only consistent person on the Clippers roster on both ends of the floor, or at least one end of the floor, until the last couple games of the series where he showed everybody he still got it on the defensive end as well. And see, these are the type of things you look at when you look at a team. Now, as far as this year, Paul George has been holding down the fort pretty well. He's been doing very good in regards to, keeping the team afloat. They went on a 7-game winning streak at one point early in the season. It's been a roller coaster ever since. Now, Paul George, went out with an injury, UCL, elbow injury. He came back for a couple of games, had to go back out after being reevaluated. And now it's to the point where it's a possibility that he won't return for the rest of the season. Not something that the Clippers actually, want to hang their hat on in regards to, how the season unfolds. But definitely, hopefully positivity ends with this season for the Clippers. Hopefully Kawhi Leonard comes back. Hopefully, other players come off of health and safety protocols, and maybe hopefully, Paul George can come back after being maybe reevaluated again, checking to see how his elbow feels, and then maybe they can make a run for the playoffs. But personally, when you think about where they are right now, you have to look at what they have on the floor. Right now, Amir Coffey has been their leading scorer the last 3 or 4 games. Don't think you could win with him being your leading scorer. But if he's all you have, and if he's the only one playing, to that level, then you have to ride the wave while it's here. And that's definitely what the Clippers are doing. Ty Lue is definitely having his hands tied, I should say, in regards to just the personnel on the floor and figuring out what he can do to keep this team afloat, while the superstar and the big guns are down. And that's really, really hard to do because when you look at the West, it's only getting better. It's only getting tougher. And when you look at a team like the Warriors, teams like the Suns, you can even throw the Lakers in there if they find a way to get better. And you look at a team like Denver, if Jamal Murray comes back in a decent amount of time, those are contending teams. Those are tough outs. Those are teams you're going to have to worry about if you're going to enter the playoffs. And I guess you could throw Dallas in there since the Clippers seem to always draw Dallas in the first round, especially the last couple of seasons since Kawhi and PG has been there. Of course, Clippers came out on top, but at some point you definitely feel like it's time that Luka or maybe the Dallas Mavericks could break through. So that's another issue that the Clippers could have entering the playoffs if they happen to make it there. So when you look at the team the way it is, the biggest thing I've said that needs to happen is a trade needs to happen, because even with Kawhi and PG, sometime when you look at them play, when they played last year in the playoffs and even the year before that, sometimes it just looks like those two aren't enough. And that's what I've been saying the last couple seasons, basically, since Kawhi and, PG has started this operation in LA. that they can use more help. And don't get me wrong, the depth and everything that the Clippers have, they have a lot of it. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of talent on both ends of the floor. And they have a lot of good pieces. But at the same time, those pieces have to gel at the right time, and the right time is the playoffs. And I'm not sure if all those pieces that they have will gel the way they're supposed to at the right time in the playoffs, because when you look at the regular season, even though a lot of people think the regular season doesn't count, it does count, because those are a lot of games that you have to build chemistry and camaraderie with the team and everybody around you that can help you play better and be a successful team in the playoffs. And right now, even with the team that they have, I feel like they could win it, but it would take a Herculean effort from Kawhi and PG to help them get over the hump, which of course, that's what you pay those two players for. But, making their life easier is also good too, because that allows them to be healthier with longevity. And that's what you want. You want to build a dynasty. You don't want to build a team who has a one shot maybe to get to a finals and maybe be one and done. The operative thought is to build a championship caliber type team that can win multiple seasons if possible, or put themselves in contention to win multiple seasons. Now, the Clippers definitely can do that. But as I said, I think they need a trade, and I think the trade is imminent. I definitely think the trade in the position that they need to trade for really would either have to be the point guard position, or maybe throw another big man, or get another big man there, maybe the 5 position, because honestly, a point guard would definitely put them in better states, because now Kawhi and PG wouldn't have to worry about averaging 5 or 6 assists a game. They can only worry about averaging 3 to 4 assists a game, and let the actual point guard dictate the offense and run the flow and get them in their spots where they like to create offense and, create offense for themselves to be very effective. That's what the Clippers should look into. Also, if they want to look into maybe some big men or something like that, there's other players out there in that role as well. You could look at a Miles Turner. I mean, there's other players out there besides him, but I thought he would be a decent fit for the Clippers and what they're trying to accomplish. But the only thing is, with the Clippers, they gave up so much to get Paul George, and on top of that, when they started this operation, they really don't have any picks left, because they gave up so much to really acquire the 2 players in Kawhi and PG. They really don't have any assets. So honestly, I feel like the reason why it's been hard for the Clippers to pull the trigger on any trades or anything like that, or any real trades, because they really don't have the cap space, the money, the assets to do so. Only thing they can do really at this point is try to rock with what they have, or maybe if they're willing to give up so much to get very little back, teams might go for that. But that's the problem. Are you going to give up 90, or are you going to give up 80% of your depth, which makes you a really good team as well, because you're a deep team, from top to bottom in your roster, as far as guys who can individually go out there and put the ball in the basket and play hard on defense, for maybe one player who might get injured or might be injury prone, and you're just putting your all into one player. That could be an issue for the Clippers, which is another reason why I think they haven't pulled the trigger, because they don't want to give up too much depth for one player and lose 2 or 3 players, giving away 2 or 3 players, getting one guy and nothing really to show for it in return. I mean, if you think about it, that's almost exactly what happens with Eric Bledsoe. I mean, Eric Bledsoe really hasn't been a revelation for them. He's been a decent piece. And the only reason why I feel like his role has really been, substantial somewhat for them is because of the need of having a body. Because they're missing Kawhi Leonard, because now they're missing Paul George, and they were missing other players earlier in the season like Serge Ibaka, and Marcus Morris wasn't healthy, and you had other players going through health and safety protocols. So having an extra body there to fill a roster spot who can actually do decent things at times, that's all they've really pretty much gotten out of Eric Bledsoe. And to be quite honest, it was a bad trade for letting Patrick Beverley go along with Rondo, even though I didn't think Rondo was a good fit locker room wise, voice wise there. But at the same time, those players are better players to me than Eric Bledsoe has been throughout his career. And that's just the way I see it. But right now, the Clippers have to just kind of be content where they are. Right now, they're hovering around the 8th seed, around playing 500 basketball. And like I said before, Amir Coffey is your leading scorer the last few games. And to me, that's not a recipe for winning. But at the same time, it does give the younger guys experience. It does give the younger guys more confidence to go out there and play at a high level. Maybe if you make it to the playoffs where they can, utilize their talents and put it on display and actually go out there and feel confident while they're doing it in a playoff moment, because of the experience they had all during the season, because of the injuries that the Clippers have suffered all during the season. So, definitely it could be a win-win for the Clippers, but at the same time, it really is a situation that really might need to be looked into more so, because right now, I think a trade is really, really intimate for the Clippers. It's really, really needed for the Clippers, because I only see teams getting better, and it looks like every team has a big three or a mini big three. At least is what it looks like to me. And it looks like the Clippers are the only team that doesn't have that. And see, that really could hurt them in the future, because that might take more out of Kawhi and PG to do Hercules type efforts just to help them win in playoff games. Think about it. When you look at the West, the Phoenix Suns, they got Chris Paul, they got Devin Booker, they got DeAndre Ayton. The Lakers, LeBron, AD, Westbrook. The Warriors, they got Clay, Steph, Draymond. You see what I'm saying? And even if you look at Denver, if they get healthy, they got Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. You see what I'm saying? It's like every team has a mini big three or a regular big three. Even in the Eastern Conference, the Nets, Kyrie, Harden, KD. You look at the Bucks, Giannis, Middleton, and we can't forget about Drew Holiday. See? So it's like every team has a formidable mini big three or a big three, whatever you want to call them. And it's like the Clippers really are just relying on a big two and a bunch of young role players who they hope can step up in big moments in the playoffs and help deliver them a championship. And that's just really an awfully lot to ask young players who haven't been on this stage, who hasn't even really played in enough NBA games, regular season games, to even be built for the playoffs. Now, of course, Ty Lue definitely is the type of coach that can pull the right strings on players. But at this point, the state that the LA Clippers are in, a trade is definitely needed. And I don't know if they think they can just try to ride with what they have, or they don't have the assets to go after another trade and just want to ride out what they have and see how it goes, and hopefully everybody gets healthy and see what their chances are. Either way, it could be a win-win for the Clippers if everybody gets healthy before the playoffs and make a run, or if they find a way to get a trade and not give up too much depth to acquire somebody decent that can help. Maybe like a Goran Dragic or somebody like that, or, some other point guard out there, maybe even an Eric Gordon, since now I'm seeing reports that Eric Gordon is being talked about in regards to being traded, as he was about a week ago. But I guess the talks now have gotten even more and more spiced up. So definitely that's something the Clippers should look into. Might not have to give up much to get him either. So, it's just little things they have to look into, and the things they have to really pay attention to is whatever's best for this team and help them win. And honestly, a trade right now can definitely help that, because even when Kawhi and them come back, you want them to build chemistry with who they have, and have somebody, a third person that's really, really reliable. And in regards to getting everybody in their sets and playing their natural position and anchoring and controlling the ball the whole point in time, and allowing the defense, and allowing the offense to flow the way it's supposed to. Because honestly, I think the Clippers offense would have much more structure if they had a natural point guard or somebody like that who can handle the ball and get everybody where they need to be. Even I think players like Reggie Jackson will play a lot better, in situations like that, along with Marcus Morris, where they don't have to handle the ball. They can just catch and shoot, and they don't have to really do a lot of isolation one-on-one plays if they had a point guard who can get them in their spots where they can catch and shoot, or just take somebody off the dribble and go straight to the basket, maybe penetrate, kick it to somebody in the corner for a wide open three, like a Nicholas Batum, who is a knockdown shooter. So to me, that's the notion. That's what the Clippers need to look into. And to me, at the state that they're in right now, even with or without Kawhi Leonard, To me, that's one of those things that need to happen, is a trade, just so they can actually put themselves in better position to beat some of these teams who have a mini big three, or teams that have more talent than they have, which, you definitely don't want to ask Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to go out there and, risk getting hurt again just to try to help the team win, when they can actually put, better talent around the Kawhi and PG, or, find another, like I said, point guard or somebody, make a trade to try to make something different happen, because a difference needs to be made in this organization. Because honestly, as I said before, the window of opportunity is closing for a championship, and honestly, it's damn near closed. If not this year, it better be next year, because if it's not, then you might as well take the operation and pretty much throw it in the trash, because that's exactly where it probably would belong if the Clippers don't find a way. Because year after year, you can't have excuses. You have to have the championship. That's just the way it is. I mean, no other way to really put it, no other way to look at it, but that's just where the Clippers are. That's the state that they're in, and honestly, that's the mind state they should have going into every game, and to finish out the season, to figure out what they need to do in regards to trades and how or what they can get from other players before they get their main stars back, so they can try to make a run at the championship. But hey, that's my take on the situation. You leave any comments in the comment section as always. And hey, Cali out.